Hello. Right, so this is the video I've been waiting to make for ages. Um, this is unboxing and product review of watercolors. I'll show you on the website. Watercolors. I've basically I'll give you the background first. I've Many of you know me. I've been painting for 3 years. It's been a little bit on and off due to circumstances, and I've only ever used the Citadel method, which is base, layer, layer. Sorry, I picked up completely random paints there. That was fine at first, and then I started experimenting with it. Sorry, I'm going to have a cigarette while I do this. I do apologise. So obviously when I was new and I didn't know how to paint, that was a really good method to jump into it. As I got a little bit better, I've then started to sort of play with new color methods, for example, and that's for example how I learned glazes and inks. Oh, I thought someone knocked at my door. So for example, when I did purples, I found that the colors didn't blend very well, and that's when I learned how to do a glaze, and then that just brought all the colors together. And then I started experimenting with mixing the colors, so you've got those transitions. And then obviously one thing that I've always had a problem with is, and you'll have heard this a million times, is the actual pot. It's only a small thing, but you dip your brush in the paint, you put it in your palette, you then you wash it, put another one in. It's quite hard to regulate exactly how much you want to take out, and so on and so forth. Back one sec. My first touch with drop bowls. First of all, what I do is when I get to the end of this, I'll put in some thinners or water or something, and I'll thin it down, and I'll put it into a drop bowl. Maybe just because I'm stingy, but I like to use it all. This is it's not actually Agrax Earthshade. This is some ink that I made. So I'll start experimenting with recipes, and then these you can't get in the Citadel range. When I started to paint fire, this is when I learned to really thin my paints down. But I found that by using a fluorescent base and then putting the colour on top, it really does make it glow. So excuse me. So basically, I've been looking around, and most of the paints that have come up have been Vallejo, and I've used Vallejo before, and I'm happy with Vallejo, and I really do like them. This one's not been used for a long time. It's going to look funny, isn't it? So yeah, I'm happy with Vallejo. So from a standard of dropper bottles, I know I'm fine with Vallejo. But then I came across watercolors, and I came across, so I'm trying to go over into the website. Every time I do this, it actually loads it up again. Yeah, it's the way this software works, it kind of resets it. So I'm going to have to find it. What they do, a lot of different things. They're big. They've got. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. This is what I actually ordered. I ordered the 5 bottles. Now, what appealed to me is, first of all, I've seen 2 review videos. by painters that I respect, and both of those painters have given it a thumbs up. One person loves it. It's absolutely brilliant. In fact, his review was so good that Watercolours have actually seemed to put it onto their, there we go, they've actually put it on their website. There we go, How to Paint with Watercolours Hobby Cheating, by Vince Venturella. So obviously that held a lot of weight for me because I respect things that he say. So I didn't want to jump straight in and buy the big set. It works out maybe £300 to buy the whole lot. The 92 bottle set is €149. His website reverts to euros by default, although you can change that. In this case, I am going to change it. My PC is a little bit slow. So, right, so to buy all of their layers is £134. That's without buying the metallics, that's without buying the transparents, without buying the bases, and all the other things that he does. So I decided I'll buy the 5 bottle set, and as I'm in the process of painting Orc Blood Bowl Army, I decided to buy green and red. So first of all, let's look at the price. They're £7.97. I actually didn't pay that. I cocked up. Guys, if you order from this site, change to your currency, because if you pay by PayPal, it'll do their conversion. So I actually bought in euros. So it cost me £22 or something like that. Now there is postage on this. Basically £7.97, that works out at round about, I could get a calculator out, there we go, so 7.97 divided by 5 equals £1. Let's call it £1.60 a bottle. Now when you compare it to various other prices, this is straight from source. We say, oh, Citadel paints cost this much. Now if I just look at, right, now this is a company I've used a lot called Element Games. They obviously sell things a little bit cheaper. You can see their Citadel, it should cost £2.55, but they sell it at £2.11. If we then look at Vallejo, they sell at £1.98. And then another one that comes up I've heard of a lot is War Paints. That's £1.80. And lastly, I've never used these, but I hear them mentioned a lot. Scale 75, £2.48. So at £1.60 a bottle, you can see where they come in. So sorry, wrong image. So out of all of those paints, these are the cheapest. So obviously, one question we're going to ask is, if they're the cheapest, are they the worst paints? So that's why I only ordered the 5. Sorry, I ordered the 10. So they come from Cyprus. Now I'm going to mention my first bad point about them. I've only been able to find them direct from their website in Cyprus, and they took a week to come. Sorry, I forgot, this has to load it up again. So they've taken a week to come. So there is no more just nipping down the shop and buying them, and there you are, you've got it there and then. So that is a negative point. Now, I don't know if they plan to get any retailers in various countries. It would be wonderful if they did. I personally, I would pay £2 a pop for that. Saying that, I've not even used them. So this is a box that came in. It actually arrived yesterday, but I wasn't in to collect it. So what I'll do is, they're in there. So I'm going to open the box up, we'll have a little look. And for this I'm going to switch the camera. So Sorry, I do like to open boxes carefully, as you can probably see. At least it's well packaged, so we'll give it that. Right. Okay, so right, my first impressions are. Ooh, what's that? Yeah. Right, so it comes with obviously it comes with this put little thank you card in, which is a nice little touch, and this is my invoice. Oh, there's no price on the invoice. So I've bought the red set and I've bought the blue set, green set. Now, the first thing that struck me, oh, hang on, I'll see where that splodge has come from. Okay, so we've had a mishap. So red 4 has burst or exploded or not been packaged properly. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, it's leaked. Okay, it doesn't look like it's damaged too much. I think I can clean that actually. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'll have a look at it. It's actually, no, this is a good reason to video things. Right, so let me go on to the website again. I'll show you what I mean. On their website, you have a color chart. See if I can find it. Sorry, this is an unexpected bit. I have seen this. Downloads. It's on accessories. I've seen it somewhere. Here we are. Right. So if you look at the chart, especially if you look at the reds, there isn't that much difference. The reds are the second one in. I don't know if you can see my mouse key. There isn't a huge amount of difference. You look at red 1, it's not really bright, and red 5, it is dark, but it's not really dark. Now obviously you can only, this is obviously a print or scanned image, but if you look at the actual difference in real life, let me switch my cameras. Probably the wrong camera. Now if you look at the difference, this is red 1 and red 5 together. There is a massive difference. I would say red 5, yeah, that's darker than corn red. So if you're looking for corn red, that's light, so maybe so so it's, yeah, it's somewhere there. So yeah, we've got an unmatched color here. So obviously it's not matching Citadel. But obviously what we're going to do is we're going to use inks and we're going to use glazes, etc. So obviously one concern I had was, are you getting the color range? I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure if I like that bottle. Definitely going to need a clean up, isn't it? I mean, it's not actually sitting straight, but that might be because there's so much paint in it. So let's have a look. I think what I'll do is I'll scrape that out at some point, and I'll get some cleaners in the lid. Oops. So yeah, no, I'm not an expert in paint bottling, so I don't know what's happened there. I don't know if that would have been an error at packing, or if it sat in the sun during delivery. Yeah, that's pretty much nearly cleaned up. Yeah, I'm gonna, because to be honest with you, I could probably kick up the stink and go, oh, this isn't right, and oh, I want my things perfect. But I'll be honest with you, I've emailed the chat bee. Now, when you deal with businessmen, they're going to come across in one of two ways. A, they're going to be nice because they want to sell you things, or they're going to be nice because they're hobbyists. They want to deliver a good level of customer service. And I'll be honest with you, this guy comes across to me, delivering the customer service comes first, and making a profit will just follow. Obviously he wants to make a profit because that's what he's doing, but to be honest with you, I think that's pretty much nicely cleaned up. I think if I ran some thinners through there, I think for how nice the guy is, and he's been really nice to me, and yeah, I think for the amount of hassle for £1.60 pot of paint, yes, but to be honest with you, look, even, I mean, I've ordered 10 bottles and there's one error, so that's 10%. If I'd have ordered 100 bottles and one was out, that's only 1% issues. So I would say that that's an odd bottle. Obviously, it's going to sort of be a bit negative on his review, but I think that would probably be unfair. You know, I've bought a lot of Citadel paints. I've had problems with the Citadel paints. In fact, I'd be willing to bet if he says I'll send it back, I'll send you a replacement out. So I'm going to completely ignore that bottle's gone. It's more than usable, so I'm happy with that. So yeah, the first question I had was, have they reduced the range much smaller? But I think the answer to that is no. If I try and hold, these are actually very different colours. Two. I mean, look, if you look, these. Sorry, what's going on there? Right, these. Obviously, this is only as good as my webcam. But these are actually, they look to me like they're completely different colours. This is a very dark. I wouldn't layer that on top of that. I would need to blend that, or you'd lay it down as a base. These look very similar, and could perhaps go on top of that. But I would imagine that if you put that onto, or layered that onto that, that would just be completely different. So you would need to blend it. Let's have a look at the greens. Green 5, green 4. Now these do look a little bit closer together. So the first thing that then, well, the next thing that's springing into my mind, Citadel uses a 3-up method. Now, when you have that 3-up method, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to probably explain this. Right, let's use the back of his invoice. So you have a base colour, and then you put on layer number 1. Sorry, it's hard to see. And then you put layer 2, and that's it. You can put an edge on top of that if you want. You can glaze the whole lot, but essentially you've got a base and 2 layers. Now what you can do is you can do base, then you can do 50-50 mix of base and layer 1, and then layer 1, and then a 50-50 mix of layer 1 and layer 2, etc, etc. So that's obviously going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different layers. Now these are coming as 5 paints. So that's now giving you a little bit more scope. So I know these aren't in the right order, but you can lay down the first one. Then you could lay down on top of that. You can do a mix of the 2. Then the third one. Then a mix. Then the next one. Then a mix. Then that one. Then a mix. So that's giving you a lot more scope. So yeah, I'm happy with these so far. Obviously, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So what I'm going to do is, some of you may have noticed I've got this board in front of me. What I've done this morning, I've got a little bit of plexi board, and what I've done is I've primed the whole lot in white, and then I've done a big bit of primed black in the middle. And the reason I've done that is that one thing that I've heard talked about a lot is the transparencies. If you see on the bottle, near the bottom it says semi-opaque, and there's a little graph. Now, if you've watched any other videos from Warp about reviews, this one's a lot easier to see. So that's the opacity. So in other words, how well will it cover up the base? Now, I was reading a forum report the other day, and one guy said, I don't like watercolours because they don't cover up the base. And there was a little bit of, I think comments had been removed, but it looked like there'd been a bit of an argument. One guy had said, well, if you want to cover up the base, you need to lay down a base. I don't think these are intended to cover up the base color. They do a base range, which a lot more solid. But my own personal thought on it is, if you look at any beginner guides, they talk about priming, and they talk about the different colors of primer. If you lay down a black prime, then that's because you want your colors to be darker. If you put down a white primer, your colors are going to be a lot more vivid. So now that would suggest to me is that you are supposed to see the primer underneath the paint. So with that in mind, I think that that's okay. Sorry, some of you are going to notice I'm really smartly dressed. I hope I'm really smartly dressed. I've actually just finished work. Right, so what I'm going to do is, we'll shake them first. That's interesting. Now, I thought these had balls in them, agitators. Obviously they don't. They do sell agitators. So I guess, I don't know, I'll email the chappie. Obviously this doesn't have agitators in it. Yeah, this one's the same. Unless they're older stock and they've gone a bit solid at the bottom, I don't know. We'll have a look. Now, I'll be honest with you, there's a few things that I'm expecting on these. Obviously I've watched videos of these in use, so I know what they're supposed to look like. I'm acting surprised. So let's have a look at this first one. So that's quite a difficult cap to get off, and I think that's a good thing. Let's have a little comparison to the model colour. That's exactly why, right? So that's one full turn and that's come off, and that's not a problem. That means it's easy to open. Now this one, oh, it's actually a childproof cap, so look, you see it's not come off. But if I push it down, right, so that's down. Right, that's one full turn. 1.5. So it takes 1.5 turns. So that means if you've got kiddies in the house, it's that much harder. And obviously, sorry, I'm doing a comparison. I didn't want to compare them to anything directly. Right. So obviously that one's done up. You know when that's done up, that's come to a stop. Now that's actually going to be a negative point. If you don't push, you have to push them down. What I've done here, look, I've just put the top on and I've turned them. You see, I've turned that many times. Actually, in that case, the cap's gone on. But you really need to push them down and do them up. They do come undone easily and they do go on easily. but I think you need to just, if you just put them on and turn, you see it's trouble taken. So that's the first point. They're going to be a little bit different. So, right. Oh, that's as expected, but unusual. That's come out quite gloopy. That's quite strange. I've watched videos, but it's odd. Oh, I'm trying to. Can you see how that sits on top of there? That's not. I'm going to compare it. I'm only putting this down for reference, but I'm just. I'm going to put a blob of model colour. Now, actually, the model colour is quite thick as well. But look, I've just tipped it. And you see how the model colour is running, even though it does sit upright. So my first thought on that is that wants to be thinned, or does it? But I do actually have two tests in mind. So that's red 5, and then I'm going to put down. Next one is going to be just a one touch of red 4, followed by red 3. You know, I didn't shake this one, did I? I think they definitely don't have agitators in them, but you can buy them. Like I say, I'm going to email him. Yeah, that's almost the same. That's a nice. I like that. The difference between 3 and 4. Oh, these are quite difficult to get on. If you don't get them just right, they're not going to go on. So just be careful of that. I like these because they're quite simple. Do you know, I've just put. Right. Sorry, I've made a mistake. I do apologise. I put the wrong colour down. That should have been. I've put red 1 down. That should have been red 2. So. Oh, this one's really hard to open. And then red 1 next to it. Oh, that one's quite warm. That was very lucky. Not sure what happened there. It's like it all went watery. So I haven't had 5 minutes. I managed to make a complete mess. Yeah, see. Now I am struggling with these caps. I don't know why. If you're going to hear some noise, I apologise. I'm living in a shared house. I'm on a contract, bus driving contract. We're all agency staff. We all have this house that we live in. And it's like no one seems to have any consideration for anyone else. Right, so I'm using this neat, which may not be the best way to use it. No, that's nice. you can quite clearly see the primer underneath. It's a little bit uneven. As you can see my brush marks in it. But that's not really what I'm trying to test. But if you look closely, you can see that that's black primer underneath and that's white primer underneath. That I'm happy with. So I'm just going to bring in, what I want to do is I want to see the actual colour side by side. That blends really well. That's really nice. So even though if you look at the two, there's a massive colour difference, but once you actually paint it, it blends really nice. Look. Now, the video I watched of Vince Venturella was saying about blending them. So I'm trying to get just the right light. I don't have a professional paint studio, but you see, if you just blob the paint on, you can see the difference. But then what you want to do is just blend it in. So obviously that's just done quite roughly, and this is done neat. You can see that there's colour differences, but I've managed to bring two completely different colours into one. Now, this is the first time I've ever used these paints. Now, there might be people watching this and going, oh my god, what's she done? Now, it is a terrible finish, but I've used these neat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, sorry, I don't know if you can see my palette, I've just put some water in. So what I'm going to do is I'm now just going to mix that down a bit. I'm going to see what difference that makes. I don't know if I put enough water in. Look, you've got to see this. Right, obviously I've got paint on my brush. I've just taken a little bit of water. None of that has gone into the water. That's interesting. Just going to put that down a sec. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some Citadel black. Clean brush. So a little bit of black down there. Now obviously I'm going to want to thin that. Do you know what? That's done the same. Sorry, my apologies. Ignore me on that one. But what's going to be interesting is that's the water I clean my brushes with. How easy or hard it's going to be to clean my brushes. But that's something else. So what I've done now, as you can see, I've just mixed this. Straight away you can see a difference. It's just a bit smoother. That might actually be over thinned, but then I think there's no such thing as over thinning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come this side. Wow. Wow. That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. That's just gone on so smoothly. I've not given it the right even coverage, but obviously it's thinner. You can see a lot more of the primer underneath. Let's see if I can get better lighting. That you can see the black is definitely black underneath, and the white is a lot more vivid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the four. Now obviously I've got red 5 on the brush already. and I haven't cleaned the brush, but we're just testing. So let's have a look, see what happens. So, oh, look at that. That is absolutely amazing. That's such a difference. The blending is so much easier. I think it might have been Vince who'd said that these paints are made for blending. They are beautiful. Well, I don't think I need to go any further. I think I found a new favourite paint. Oh, look at that. Because I've put so much water in the first lot, I don't actually need to add any water to the next lot. Look at that. I mean, obviously I'm just laying this on roughly, and look at that. That I am really happy with that. Just going to try something completely different. Oh, I forgot I've already blended this one with water. Actually, this is very, very thin now. This is too thin for what I want to do, but this is like a glaze. No, this is a new concept to me. When I've wanted a wash, I've always bought a wash and used it as a wash. When I've wanted a glaze, I bought a glaze. Now, to me, my understanding as an intermediate, a wash is supposed to, obviously there's no nooks and crannies on this, is flat. But a wash is designed to get into the nooks and crannies, so it really highlights any details. Whereas a glaze is like a very transparent paint. Thinning paints down to make them into a wash or a glaze is a concept I've not really dealt with much. So it's not something I'm going to deal with too much here. But look at that. That's gone on so nicely. To be honest with you, I might have overthinned that little bit. Because I don't know if you can see this, I'm going to do it on the white. At the edges, it's starting to kind of lose it and come back. Where I've probably put, no, actually on here it's fine. Okay. Yep, no, sorry, I'll retract that. Yeah, you've got to, yeah, it is pulling back a little bit when it's very, very thin. But what you've got to do is you've got to kind of pull the paint out. I don't know if you can see this. Now it's really, really hard to see, but if you paint in a circle, the circle kind of shrinks a little bit. Now bearing in mind that this is Citadel primer that's on this board, so I'm not doing it straight. There we go, look. You see the little bubbles appearing. So it is struggling when it's thin. However, this has gone on to straight primer. So just be careful how much you thin. So if there is a criticism, that's that they don't like to be too thinned as a base. So let me, I've used all the red 5, so I'm just going to just put a bit more on. So I want to have another play with this a little bit further. Because obviously this primer would be my main model. So I need that first layer to stick really well. So I've just put a little bit on. Yeah, look, that's going on fine. But you've got to put enough on. Yeah. Saying that, that is pulling. That's still pulling. But it doesn't, it's interesting. It's pulling on the black primer. It's pulling. I don't know if you can see. Around the top. See little bubbles appearing. But it's not doing it on the white. Whether that's how I've done the primer, or maybe there's, I don't know, maybe a bit of grease got on it. But I find that quite interesting. But it's only doing it on the black primer. So I would be willing to accept that that's a primer error problem. So what I'm doing here, I'm just trying to, I'm only doing this, obviously I'm not painting this like it was a real model. Sorry guys, you're not actually seeing what I'm doing. Now, I've not actually mixed the colours together here, but what I've done is I've done an overlap. So what you should have is the four colours, but where they meet, I'll show you better on this one. This is the last one I'm doing, red 1. Now, I've not cleaned my brushes, I've just gone straight into the next colour, added a bit. But you see where the red 2 finishes. So I'm just hitting into it. Yeah, that's interesting, that is. I'm going to do a big blotch here. It's like it's not working on the black. But it's fine on the white. You can see the coverage on the white is absolutely fine. So I wonder why that is. And yet here, there doesn't seem to be too much of a problem. That was when I used it neat. The trouble with using it neat, I think, is a little bit too thick. You've got such obvious brush, you probably can't see it too well with the camera, but there's obvious brush marks that's left behind there. So, but then they say any paint you shouldn't use. I'm gonna. This is the Citadel Black. I'm interested about this black primer. See, now that's gone on absolutely fine. Look at that, that's beautiful. Black, Citadel Black on black primer. That's absolutely fine. Which is interesting because I had another issue in the past. I had some skull crushers and I primed them all up, and then I put army paint, a spray paint on, and then I put some Null oil on, and it really wasn't sticking very well. So I went to strip them, and the paint wasn't coming off, and I actually blamed army painter. Now that's scrubbed on, but that's gone on there absolutely fine. So the suggestion I would make, Obviously that's got a little bit of, yeah, you see there, that's not sticking. That's really interesting. It's just not sticking to Citadel. Sorry guys, it's just really not sticking to the Citadel primer. Look at that, it's splitting. But it's sticking to the white primer absolutely fine. Look at that, that's perfect. I find that interesting. Now, I'm not scientifically minded, so there'll be someone who knows science that would be able to explain why that is. But as you can see, Citadel Black, absolutely fine with the black primer. This isn't happy with it. It's splitting, it's separating. It's like when you add too much water, how it goes, it just kind of, and look at that, model colour's fine. So there must be something to do with the gel. So anyway, look, what I've done here is starting to dry a bit now, so it's kind of getting the results I want to show you. So I just clean the brush. So now it's dried. It's actually this wide, but you can't tell because where the black is, it's showing the black primer through really nicely, and the white is making it much more vivid. But looking on the white bit, you can see the different colours where they've blended. It is, I mean, obviously I've not painted this properly, I've just scribbled, but you can see clear, you can see the joins quite difficult to see, and yet that colour there is a lot darker than that colour there. In actual fact, it's not that. The difference between the two looks massive, but in actual fact it's not that much different. So I think what I'd heard before is that these are full blending. You're not going to paint this, maybe that's why they've split. You're not going to paint in the same way that you would Citadel, although that's something I'm still going to have to learn. But using a test where I've opened them out of the box, I've chucked them on a palette, and do you know what? That colour looks quite sort of sickly browny orange. It's actually that colour. It's this is fluorescent orange. It might be the light source. Sorry guys, I don't have, like I said, I don't have the most professional studio. That's probably a little bit better. You can see it's meant to be fluorescent. Sorry guys, I kind of put myself off there. So first unboxing and first review of these paints. Yeah, I'm happy with them. We've had the little problem with the one that split, but to be honest with you, I think that could have happened with any manufacturer. I don't think that's a fault of Watercolours. They look nice actually. I do think they look nice. I mean, obviously these have got pretty patterns on them. These are just tell you what they are. Handcrafted, highest quality acrylic paint suitable for brush and airbrush application. Water-based, non-toxic. Conforms to ASTM D4236. I have no idea what that is. And EN71-3. Made in Cyprus, EU. And there's their website, watercolours.com. So guys, what would I rate these? I would rate these 8 out of 10. The reason they don't get a 10 is because I never give a 10. There's whatever you do, there's going to be something better. It depends on your ability. When I first started painting miniatures, I could have quite happily given Citadel a 10 rating. As a newbie, they were absolutely fantastic. But as my skill levels increased, my knowledge has increased, I don't feel that they're the best for me now. Why doesn't it get a 9? Probably because I'm being a little bit unfair. They're not sticking to the Citadel Black primer. I don't know if that's the fault of Citadel or if that's the fault of Warcolors. They they're not available from a shop. They might be in the future. So I can't just get up tomorrow morning and go, right, I'm going to go and buy some. In this particular example, I've had to wait a week. Obviously, if you've got something like I've just got some Forge World here, if I was waiting on my Warcolors to paint them, I'm sitting there for a week. That's a lot of itching time. But the reason they do get an 8, I really like them. They're cheaper. The quality is very good. I wouldn't call them a poor quality paint. I really do like the transparency of them. I like the way that you really can see the primer underneath. I think maybe what I've done in the past is maybe I've put too many base coats on. So it doesn't matter if I actually primed in grey, white or black, you're not seeing it. If you're going to cover it up, what's the point? I've never used, I keep meaning to get round to it, but I've never used zenithal highlighting. That's something that I want to try, and looking at the results here, you can see, look, that's not shine, that's dark, and that's light. So obviously with zenithal highlighting, can you see how much of that would really make use of that? The primer is now going to become far more important. Instead of the primer being something that makes your paint stick to the model, it's now going to become part of the colour. Like you can see, I've got 2 shades there. So I've got, what the primer's done is it's turned red 5 into red 5 light and red 5 dark. And it's not the same colour as the one down. So effectively from 5 bottles there, I've got 10 colours. So yeah, I'm really liking these. I think I'm going to buy the full set of layers, and then I'm gonna, my plan was, if I liked them, I was gonna use the transparencies, because I imagine that they would be like glazes. However, I've changed my mind now. I am going to buy the bases, the base sets. They promise to have a lot thicker coverage. Sorry, not thicker, more solid. Less opacity, more. They're not so see-through. But I think looking at these and using zenithal highlighting, I don't think I'm going to use them a lot. So just to recap, you can get them from, sorry, this has taken so long to load up. My PC is not very fast, but Warcolors with a U. I do like the way some people tried to pronounce it, but it's warcolors.com. There we go, www.warcolors.com. I will put a link. 8 out of 10, guys, for me. Like I say, it loses a point because, sorry, I'm not liking me on camera today. I mean, look at this. This is absolutely fantastic. I've just You see, I've done no professionalism with them. I've not painted properly. I've just scribbled down on a board. I've done a comparison with Citadel, and I've done a little slight comparison with model color. This piece here, I am really impressed with. These are just about dry. Oh, one thing I haven't done, I was going to do today, but it's starting to sort of go on a little bit. I mixed these with water. I was wondering what would happen if I mixed them with Flow Improver. But I'll do another video in the future, but I imagine that mixing them with Flow Improver will just exactly the same as any other paints. Effectively, these are just an acrylic paint, but they're not. Apparently, they're not water-based; they're gel-based. But yeah, thumbs up, 8 out of 10 for me, guys. And thanks for watching.